Good morning, everyone. This is RuPaul's Drag Race recap, review, reaction, whatever you call it. Season 12, Episode 9, Choices 2020. So before we dive straight into the episode, I have a few thoughts I want to put up front. I think I've been very consistent in sharing this point of view, but I think it's worth reiterating, which is all of the drag queens that have made this season or on this show, have ever been in the show, are amazing drag queens. And sometimes people get like, any criticism means I'm trying to tear them down, or not me, but the collective. You can definitely say, I think this person is the lowest this episode, and still think they're an amazing drag queen. And also the opposite, like I don't tag the drag queens in this. I belong to kind of a theory of criticism and critiques, which is that, and as a writer, I feel like, I have some experience with this, which is I don't tag people in it. If they want to come and look, that is a risk that they might see something critical, but I'm not going to go on their Facebook page and tell them I'm losers. I don't think I've ever called anyone a loser on this show or in my critiques, but even if I believed that, I wouldn't go to them and say, your drag sucks, or this dress was awful, or you were terrible. I kind of figured like, the same way I wouldn't go to someone's face, and it doesn't make me shady or anyway. So what I'm talking about is Britta basically got off social media and is like, I'm getting death threats. People are saying that if they ever saw me, they'd push me in front of a train. And I think that's where like, oh, sassy, shady stuff, people cross over boundaries. So I didn't think Britta performed that great this season, but I have no malice toward her, and I don't think it's really fair that anyone does. I think the Sherry Pie situation is a whole different category, and it really has nothing to do with her performance on the show. But they basically removed her. Every time she shows up, I go, oh my gosh. Two other comments is Trixie Mattel's, I mentioned it last week, Trixie Mattel's Moving Parts documentary is on Netflix. If you're a fan of Trixie or Katya, or Trixie and Katya together, or drag in general, sort of a look behind the curtain. I guess Willem said it was boring, but I thought it was super interesting. I actually cried a little bit. It's really tough. So if you don't know, they filmed this documentary, and they were doing the Trixie and Katya show for Vice when it kind of started, and Katya in the middle had a little bit of a break, kind of quit the show, quit drag, at least for the moment. I put it in quotes because Katya's still performing, but for that moment she stepped away as completely as she needed to, and then eventually went to rehab. And it shows the tension between her and Trixie gets kind of resolved at the end. There's some pretty tough moments in there, but it's the kind of thing where you hurt for Katya and you hurt for Trixie, and you understand it was kind of a bad situation, and it's very, very good. So I'll say that. So I won't make this into it. And then I started We're Here, which is on HBO. It's Bob the Drag Queen, Shangela, and then Eureka. And I just started, it's on HBO. You can watch the first episode though on YouTube. So if you want to check it out, you can. I might talk about it, we'll see. So we come back, Jan is gone, which is very sad. Reminder that everyone who's gotten this far, they're 9 episodes in, is great, but we're seeing some frustration, and I get it. I've been there. I may not have been on a international reality show, but I work as a writer, and there's definitely times where you go, why am I not good enough? Why does no one see my brilliance? I think I'm great, and I'm just not making the cut. And no amount of like, praise can overcome the fact that you're not winning. Okay, so I totally get it. So Sherry's sassing Widow about something, which is, for us, it's like a stranger wandered onto the show to say something. Heidi is a great winner. She has this way of, even though she just won, kind of almost, I don't want to say undercutting herself, but kind of putting it in perspective, like, hey, now I have just $1,000 before I was broke. Gigi Good, I had said last episode that some of the shine was coming off of her because she was getting a little full of herself. Well, this week she says, coming into it, I had said this could be a really great arc for her where she acknowledges it, and she does. She says, I think I just got too in my head and started to buy the hype and all that. I'm going to try to kind of keep my focus. But Gigi's kind of stumbling a bit, and there we go. So we do this kitty litter product placement thing. Sherry is old in it. Heidi is just adorable. I don't think she did the best, but she's so fun to watch. Oh my gosh, it's quick drag. Jada does this whole pole stripper thing. Widow went full, I called it, my notes say Will Ferrell, so it's kind of a well-known Saturday Night Live story that Will Ferrell played a cat, like a very, well, what he played was a cat toy salesman who pretends he's a cat or something like that in his audition. Is why I went full kitty. I didn't recognize Crystal. I was like, who is this person on my screen? And I was like, is it Sherry? I don't know who it is. I actually watched twice to find Crystal, which just shows how good Crystal is at makeup. There's such a variety of makeup that Crystal does. And I wish the judges mentioned it more. Overall, she is very likable. And I've said this before, which is whoever wins is kind of almost different sometimes than who shines. And they're both valuable things. And I think, you know, all you gotta do is look at Tyra, as sometimes winning doesn't do you any good if you can't connect with the viewership. I kind of feel that way about BB. It's a horror banana. I just never really gotten it. But anyway, totally different story. Jackie came out with a full character and carried the whole, what we saw. So I don't know how long, but they kind of show the highlights. Every line from her was a winner. She had this strong point of view. It wasn't a pure cat, but it was cat inspired and it felt very draggy. Gigi was low energy, had some good lines, some good premise, but it felt like if Jan was clocked for being up here, Gigi was down here. And maybe that's some of that fear coming through. And the outfit was great, except it came to here, like above her nipples. And I always find that distracting unless they look like women nipples. I always find that distracting when they're dressed as, you know, you could say it's gender F or that it's non-gendered and stuff like that. So I try to kind of be open about the idea of pushing my ideas of traditional femininity onto drag, which isn't right, but I just find it distracting. That's all there is to it. If I can see your boy nipples, my brain is like zing, and that's all I can really see. So I always find it's an odd choice. Like, why not just bring it down? And my guess is maybe it was meant to be down here, and it just didn't fit right when you know, like, she wasn't expecting to have to lay on her back and play with yarn. I don't know. Anyway, to me, Jackie was a well-deserved winner. And Jackie's someone for me who I still really like and is just not consistently bringing it far enough. But we are talking about, if you don't know, I've been a competitor archer and coach for decades. For 20 years will be my 20-year anniversary is coming up with archery. And I go to tournaments and I see amazing archers who are just not shooting the way they should that day. They're misjudging the wind. They just can't get their rhythm. That's how I kind of look at these drag queens, is like, it's not that they're bad, it's that they're just not catching their rhythm. And I'm being especially careful this week because I don't know, I just want to be thoughtful to people that are having a hard time. I think because of what Widow goes through this episode and what, like, I wasn't crazy about Britta on the show, and I thought she sometimes, you know, was out of line in her commentary to other queens, but it doesn't mean I want her to be driven off of Facebook or be scared that someone's going to push her off a subway platform in front of a train. I doubt that was a serious, but it's like, it's pretty serious to say that. Like, the person might not have meant it, but the person who hears it sure feels like that. So anyway, they have, they're going to do a challenge that we saw, I believe it was season 3, it was with Alaska and, or sorry, not Alaska, Sharon Needles and Fifi and that whole crew did. And that time there was a real push from, I can't remember the guy, to really make it very, very political. So this time they were really, and I think the challenge got muddied, so I'm glad they did it again, which is America's first drag queen, but being very overt. This is supposed to be funny. This isn't, you don't have to do real issues, or, well, I guess they kind of did get into it. So it's I think it's kind of almost a very hard challenge because they kind of want you to know about real politics, but they want it to be funny. So like the glitterification of America was totally acceptable, but then they kind of got on Gigi for not really knowing politics. And so it's a little confusing, but they're trying to talk about funny political words, and I'm like, how could you forget the word caucus? Come on, guys. Come on. Anyway, Gigi's got some anxiety, and she's kind of struggling. Widow's got some So we see Raven come around with RuPaul, give some real shade, makes fun of Raven makes fun of Widow's prescription shoes and talks about how the fact that you're wearing those shoes so you can dance, you know, you're kind of undercutting your performance because you already expect to be on the bottom. Widow's really struggling, and I feel for her. She's a very strong drag queen. On this particular competition, she doesn't really seem to be shining the way she could. And it's not that I go, oh, that's a bad drag queen. It's more of like, okay, I see how everyone else is stronger. Jackie's gonna talk about her green card. Jada intends to sling mud. Heidi's gonna go with the Gap. Heidi is just a joy to watch everywhere. So they have Sexy Broccoli again. I feel like they're trying to make Sexy Broccoli the new Vanjie, like a season-wide joke. I don't have a problem with Sexy Broccoli being there, but it doesn't bring me joy when I see it. But if she's smart, she will embrace that and carry it out into her career, because I think people will be interested in seeing it. Jeff Goldblum, funny note, when I was in college, we all went to see Jeff Goldblum play at a jazz club in LA, because I went to school in LA, and someone from my department, it was part of a very small department. One of my majors was geology, and it's kind of a semi-small department, but it was very funny because we had almost as many professors as we did dedicated students, and then a majority of the classes were like elective classes. So it was a very, very tight, we did something called liquidus, which is a geologic term, which was a drinking on campus on Friday nights, and it'd be professors and grad students and undergrads, and we all went to go see Jeff Goldblum play at a jazz club because someone knew him. And I have zero memories. I remember that. I remember what it looked like, and I have zero memories. So I guess I was kind of during one of those drinking times. I think maybe they had a couple, I must have ridden with someone else, because the fact I have no memory of it. And some of the grad students drove. But anyway, that is and I think I met him that night, but I have no memories of it. And I guess I am that old. I guess by definition I'm that old that I can't remember it. Anyway, we get into it. I didn't feel anyone bombed. I didn't feel that anyone really bombed, but there were highlights. Jada was gorgeous and funny. So I'm going to stick by my Julia Sugarbaker analogy I think I mentioned last week, which is she is so beautiful, and she says these cutting things that aren't like, yuck, 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 look at my joke, but are funny. And I'm like, ooh, she is really, and I kind of, like I said, I try not to monitor social media because it affects your view, but I'm seeing this. I am not by any means the only person who's like, I don't think I've been giving Jada her due. She is so much funnier than, I've just missed it. She's been funny the whole season, and I just haven't been watching her as much. I thought Heidi was delightful to be up there. I can't really say her performance, but like her breaking when Jada would say something was such a joy to watch. She did have some good lines in there. And then my notes, I was kind of like, I didn't really know who was in the bottom. We didn't see enough of Sherry to really know if she should have been in the bottom. Crystal's a joy to watch, but I wasn't really sure. And and I felt like both Sherry and Gigi were kind of fell back on like, oh, I did funny in the Snatch game, so I'm going to do a little bit. Like, I thought, is Gigi going to pretend she's a robot again? And I was like, if she does it well, it's probably a better choice than just bombing. But anyway, they came out for the runway. They were in red, white, and blue. Crystal when I saw Crystal, I was like, oh, she looks like Gigi in the eyes. Heidi was cute as a button. I wrote Spice Girls. For whatever reason, her outfit reminded me of Spice Girls. Widow was very Black Panther. Jackie was a representation of immigrants. Gigi was the Yankee Doodle. And said it was period hair, and I think it was like partially period hair. I don't think all of that was perfectly period. For whatever reason, as gorgeous as Gigi's outfit was, and this is not surprising, but this is like theater level production outfits every single week. I had this split moment where I was like, have I seen this before? And I would need to go back through, and I'm not going to see. But I think it's almost not fair, because Gigi is so consistently gorgeous in her costuming that you almost go, oh yeah, I've seen you know, I've seen this kind of clothes before and they're the most amazing ever, but really, is that all you've got? And you're like, really? Is that all you've got? Amazing costuming? I feel like I should be more blown away. Jada's outfit took me a couple seconds to figure out that it was sheer. I think it's one of those outfits that would be amazing in person when you see it. But on my TV screen, for whatever reason, I had a hard time seeing it. So it was gorgeous, it was amazing, it was incredible. But I feel like if I saw it in person, it would be even like over the moon. And that's what happens sometimes on Project Runway too, where they're like, on screen you can't really see it, but I saw it in person and you will not believe the details that got lost. And I think because it almost looked like a sheer illusion rather than actually sheer. Anyway, they had a talk with Widow, which Widow did not hear, and I hope Widow eventually hears it. And it is a problem for anyone who does creative work. Actually, one of my favorite books is called Art and Fear, and it talks about the creative process, which I would like to call the innovation process, because I think it also relates to anyone who has to create solutions. And so that could be a dentist, a doctor, an engineer, an athlete, anybody who's trying to innovate and get to the next level. But it's called Art and Fear, and one of the things it talks about is that the artist is very, very tempted to think of their art and their worth as the same thing. And the issue with that is that art and innovation by necessity create a lot of failure, which means if you are going to get to the next level, you have to fail. It's not you can fail, you will fail. And most innovation comes from a huge pile of failures, and then eventually you have, so it's not like, let me make sure to it's like this, and does that make sense? And so the idea is, what RuPaul was saying about you cannot get your success and failure at pulling off a performance or a concept to be a reflection of your value. And so just because Widow didn't pull off a few challenges, like just because she didn't pull off the angry politician, doesn't mean that she is an unworthy competitor. And I don't think she heard it, and I don't think it's weird that she didn't hear it, because as creators, it's very, very difficult to get objective, especially when you're talking about, here's your challenge, here's the performance, here's your evaluation in 48 hours. This is why people tell you to do something and put it away for a month and then look at it with fresh eyes. It's almost impossible to do immediately. So it does not surprise me that Widow, I'm hoping now that Widow, and I didn't look it up to see, Widow watches it, goes, oh, I get it. No, it wasn't as bad. It was just on that particular day. Like, you know, my dad's really involved in drag racing, was an actual drag racing, like with cars. And you would see the national champion go out in the first round. And it was not uncommon. It was always a surprise and a disappointment to them, but it happens because that idea of any given Sunday, someone can be on fire or anything. And so just because she's an amazing drag queen and has a bad performance, it doesn't actually mean that she's a bad drag queen. Anyway, so I wanted to comment on that. Oh, okay, sorry, those are my Untucked notes, because they put another show in between Drag Race and Untucked, and I actually wouldn't have recorded Untucked if I hadn't checked, because normally I just put Drag Race and it records the whole thing. Anyway, so I don't really know if there was a middle. Just Jada wins, well deserved. I think you're going to see a lot of people. I think she's starting to get this momentum. She's never been bad, but she's just kind of been middling. Now I think it's one of those things that when you go back and watch it, you see her star shine from the very beginning. But as a viewer, I just was like, oh yeah, she's pretty. Oh, okay, she had a funny line this episode. Oh, okay, she had a funny line this episode too. And it's only in retrospect, maybe because she's so beautiful in drag and she's so chill in personality, you didn't get that those weren't flukes. That was Jada. Anyway, Jada wins. I guess Gigi was in the bottom with Widow and Jackie. I don't have a lot to say about them because I just kind of felt like they just didn't pull it off as well as they could, but it wasn't this terrible, awful train wreck of a performance that we've seen in other seasons. And I feel like we haven't seen a lot of train wrecks this season compared to like McBitch or something like that. Excuse my language. I actually got a video demonetized because I put the actual title of the episode. It was the season premiere. Anyway, you definitely feel, so what I've been told by the Vivian actually wrote a snarky comment on one of my videos, is they're given 3 options and they don't really know until they're on stage which of those particular 3 options are today. I don't know when they're told, so when they're like backstage listening, I'm not sure if at that point they know or whether they know it's one of those 3. I know before the show they're giving like an iPod with all of the songs, and then it kind of gets narrowed down, but it definitely feels like they gave a song that was a little bit more understanding to Jackie. There's kind of a theory that they picked the last minute, but Widow's had a good run. I'm sorry to see her go, but it seems like it was the right decision for the episode. Jackie, I'm kind of hoping pulls it together. We've seen Chris, so I feel like Crystal's kind of, you know, trended upward and is now in the middle. I feel like Jada's been in the middle and is now starting to come out as a front runner. Gigi was way up here and is now down here. We'll see how that arc goes. I think it's very likely that Jada and Gigi are in the finale. I think it's very likely that Sherry was going to be in the finale, and we'll see what happens. I'd like to have that be maybe Heidi and Crystal, maybe Jackie. It's hard for me to say because I kind of like them all at this point. Have I let anyone, there's 7 left, have I let anybody? I think that's all of them. So we're down to 6. Tell me who you think your favorite is, how your opinions have changed throughout the season, and I don't know, anything else you want to say. See ya!